Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Rogers and Damon Benning. Shoot.
Behind it with the baseliner. Goodness gracious. Butler with 2 seconds. He's got to put it up. And he wins it with the jumper. A San Diego State miracle.
What was the plan there?
The plan was just to get downhill. They cut me off a little bit. I looked up, it was 2 seconds left, so I got to a shot that I'm comfortable with. And I hit it. I'm happy.
Under the basket, back outside, Caravan. We got another one at the buzzer. That's his shot, that slot jumper on the left side. That's his home run, his go-to pitch. Now Miami, to get here, went through Houston and then Texas. And tonight in Houston, Texas, just no match for the Husky Express.
The offense really, the offense really moved the ball well today. The offense looked ahead of the defense. I think a lot of it was the quarterbacks running. You get to practice and the quarterback drops back and you blow it dead. Well, today, they had to try to hit Heinrich and try to hit Chuba and try to hit Jeff, try to hit Richard, and they bounced off it and ran for big long plays. So that added in a dynamic that we haven't really exposed to the defense. But I thought it was, not a ton of penalties. And we looked like a pretty good. We had Big Ten officials, so it was good to get all that kind of in the stadium. It's my first time coaching in that stadium, so it's pretty cool.
You heard Final Four clips. Coach Rule in the intro as well. And we welcome you in on a Monday here on Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. A jam-packed weekend, kind of all over the place, but there's just baskets to dip our hands into, and we will try to do everything we can. And, of course, if we don't get into anything, toward the end of the show, we do the sports cleanup, and that's where we try to really just jump into every single basket. But before we get there, good morning, boys.
Good morning, man. What's up?
How you guys doing?
We're good. Good. Lot going on, man. Busy weekend.
It was a busy weekend. How was your weekend? Because you started at the coach's clinic on Friday. Meanwhile, I was on the golf course freezing my tail off because the temperature dropped so fast.
Yeah.
And the wind picked up. Oh, I only played 9 holes.
Yeah, so
I didn't even do 18.
I'm walking to the stadium in shorts, and I'm like, this might be the dumbest thing I've ever. But I prefer shorts, like I'm team shorts. But I can't believe what happened between 9:30 and
11.
Yeah, but yeah. So it was cool. A lot of hoops. Both boys played. I played all weekend. So Saturday I didn't go back home after practice. I went right from Lincoln to UBT, and
Facility
then
number one.
they alternated. There were 4 games between the two from 12 o'clock till 7. So just chilled. Had put some stuff. I don't know these things. I can't remember, but we did like rice bowls so they could kind of eat on the fly all day, just because whatever's economically efficient. And got up and did it again a little bit yesterday. First game was at 9 something. Last game was at 1, and they both played again. So it was cool. I mean, spent a lot of time yesterday outside.
Great day yesterday.
Like
Great day. I watched half of the Cardinal game outside.
A little yard pickup, like 3, and I smoked burgers. Like they're called Pat Burgers. I get them from Just Good Meat. I haven't bought beef since we got the cow, but these burgers are a little different. It's like bacon and cheese, and it's got some it's like ground ribeye. They're fantastic.
Sounds amazing.
And I had like these 4 breasts that I like split, and I smoked just so I had them just when I want to eat during the week or put it in something, because it's a busy week too. We'll be on the move quite a bit. So
I just don't know how you found time to do all of that, because especially smoking meat.
So it was kind of a set it and forget it. I slummed it and used my old Traeger. Traeger's got some really good products. I just don't have one. It's old. So number one, it doesn't get very hot. I mean, it's like 400 tops, 410-ish. So but it's okay for like low and slow. And I did the breast at like literally 200 for like 2 hours. I looked at it once, maybe. Just make sure the pellets were circulating. I was good.
And then, it's going to taste good too. Anything that comes out of a smoker tastes good. Anything.
I didn't try it. I put them all in a container. I can use them for what I want. So now we got
good meal prep.
Made some rice. I mean, we're good. Got some family. Which one's the one by us? Family Fare. They had like these Rubbermaid containers. All right, like ready to go. They were like $4.99. So I swapped
meal prep containers.
So I swapped out my Tupperware once again.
Oh, nice. What do you do with the excess?
They're in the trash. Trash comes today. A couple missing lids, so I'm done.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't.
If you can't find the lid,
it's like flipping socks in the laundry, man. So I kicked those bad boys out, and I chilled. I'm ready for the Masters this week. Got to find a hotel real quick.
To go to Augusta?
No. Heading north for a sec, and then that's it.
You haven't found the hotel yet?
Nah, coach just sent me some some good ones that are close. It's on a win. It's not gonna be busy.
Okay, so I thought the same thing when I was.
Oh man, don't scare me.
I thought the same thing when I was booking a hotel for the day before Ashley and I are leaving to go to Punta Cana, because our flight is like 7 a.m. So we were going to do one down by the airport. And I'm like, oh, Dad, Wednesday is the day we need the hotel. No one's going to be there on a Wednesday. And here comes Barry with the save. Andrew, it's business traveler day. Like hotels, even they may look easy to get into, but if you know anything about traveling,
it's a college town, man. Anybody's staying there.
Hey, I'm telling you. I'm just saying. I'm telling you, WWBD.
Hey, I'm on. I'll get it.
He told me that, and I go, okay, we need to book this.
I'll get it done during break.
Yeah, so funny because
it's a ton of sports.
You were talking about this like a week and a half ago.
I know, and I forgot. Because I'm not going on one of them. He's flying out with his buddy, so I'm just like, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it's a lot going on, man. Plus, I mean, it was a really good clinic. I thought the hoops was just okay. It wasn't a lot of talent here. I did like the Kingdom Hoops team from Iowa, but the big tournament will be the Open the weekend of the spring game, because that's national invite. So I mean, it kind of just chilled, but like basketball, and everybody had strong opinions. Opening weekend of baseball, which I'm surprised there weren't more day games. You know, like on Thursday and
Sunday,
Friday for sure. And what was going on yesterday?
Yeah. It was a lot of late afternoon games yesterday.
So, and I mean, it's cool, right? So I just, man, if this weekend, and it's a long season, if this is any indication, I think anybody can win on any given day. But I'm not going to make it. I mean, again, first weekend, like after Friday, there's only one team that had played 2 games that was undefeated.
Yep.
Everybody else was either 1-1 or 1-0 if you hadn't played 2 games.
Who stayed undefeated?
The team that I have going in the playoffs, the Texas Rangers.
The wild card team.
Yeah.
World Series hangover?
How
the Phillies?
They're just banged up.
They are, but to not steal one away from the Rangers.
Yeah, I didn't see brooms, but how sweet are those powder blues?
Anything powder blue.
Those were off the chart. And I was like, because I'm just scrolling through my MLB thing, and I thought it was the Royals, because occasionally the Royals will break those out, right?
Yep, Cardinals have one too.
So I was just, it reminds me of Ralston, and I like Ralston's colors, their color scheme with the powder blue and red.
It's my Arenado jersey,
and I wouldn't tell anybody.
He didn't play very well.
Nah, that's an interesting team.
The Cardinals?
Yeah, you're gonna have. It might be one of those years for you, but at least you didn't waste a 6-inning, 6 strikeout start from Syndergaard. But no, we did that.
That wasn't us.
They just go ahead and
I don't know. Flaherty almost he scared me at first.
See, I kind of like the Diamondbacks. I kind of like the Diamondbacks.
D-backs, yeah.
They got a lot of good young talent.
Good imported prospects. Some good pitching too.
Yeah, sneaky. Kind of sneaky.
Everybody thinks, Mad Bum's in that rotation. He's the guy.
He's not even good.
He's not good. He's kind of a head case.
You think? He's been a wackadoodle his whole career. But I like him because he plays by his own rules. Like he's his own man. Whether he's falling off of 3-wheelers,
10 runs.
Falling off of 3-wheelers or hitting bombs. I mean, he's wild.
And his identity.
Man, hockey's nuts.
Hockey is crazy. The Blues almost stole one away from the Bruins last night.
Yeah, Bruins Steve selling me a bill of goods.
I had a tweet ready for him. Oh man, it was right when they tied the game. I'm like, all right, I got to find a GIF.
With less than a minute to go,
I wanted to come up with the. I had the TikTok kid. What happened? Queued up, ready to go. And thank goodness I didn't tweet it because that would have looked wrong.
Yeah, so many hot takes on Twitter again this week, and it's almost like people, it's like this great big group think. So somebody follows tweets something, and then it's like free reign to like just follow up. And that original person, they could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it could.
Are you referring to everything surrounding the women's national championship game?
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much, and
I was furious.
I couldn't believe how many people just like lapdogs, just like. Well, they said it, so I'm going to say it. And to use the word classless, I'm like, you guys aren't even giving yourself any wiggle room, like. Do you do any homework, or is this only the first game that you turned in to watch?
And I want to know what everyone's definition of classless is, because to some people, classless meant one thing. To others, classless meant another. To another, classless meant this.
I
was sitting at home, and because for me, I was assessing the situation. I saw Reese do it the first time at the foul line, and I'm like, ooh, that was kind of savage. Like, Caitlin Clark does things like that too. It's not the first time.
Yeah.
But when she tracked her down at the end of the game and followed her for about 10 seconds, that's where I was like, the joke hit well first, and then you tried it again because you were trying to solicit a response. And I mean, good on Caitlin Clark for just she gives as well as she takes.
Yeah.
Good on her for being able to do that. And that's good basketball. That's good sports.
Right?
I just
didn't get it. Like, I mean, whether it's snow angels or discount double checks or threes in the eye.
It happens all the time.
People just compete.
It happens all the time. I think to me, the weird part was the fact that she just followed her, like kept doing it in regards to saying, hey, like I did it once. Now I'm going to go celebrate with my team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I should say it didn't move my needle either way. I rewound it at the end because I wanted to see if something was said ahead of time.
Well, and speaking of said ahead of time, what was actually said about LSU? Because I don't think anybody ever really got to that answer yesterday. Did Caitlin Clark say something to the player individually and Reese just overheard it?
But
that was never explained.
No, because Harris didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. She said something to one of her teammates, and she had whispered it in her ear. Which, I mean, who cares? Right? and if you watch Caitlin Clark, like, which we do a ton, she does a lot of ear whispering, and I don't think the players.
That's how she does. In the moment, she is a smack talker,
and I don't think people don't care.
She's good enough to do it too,
but they just keep receipts. So I thought it was much ado about nothing. And if it wasn't women, nobody would care. I can't, and I'm going to say this, I'm saying that out loud. If that were guys, we're moving on. They do it all the time and nobody says anything, but we want this whole equality and this fair representation. And we want to we still bring this ladylike thing into sports. Like, it either is or it isn't. You can't play in both worlds. Well, what's classless about that?
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
I'm just not a fan of the gender double standards. Because listen, I almost cut up the clips. I watched it over and over. Somebody was being childish on Twitter, and it was football related, and they kept doing Aaron Rodgers discount double check, and all the guys that when they got the sack did the discount double check, right? Just mocking the discount double check as a sack. Nobody says anything, right? Or if I'm on the basketball,
that was in the moment, right? It's not at the end of a game.
So we get to make those rules, so we get to say, hey, you know what? Because we've all won national championships, right? Mm-hmm. So we're good at saying, well, this is the cutoff to let all your emotions out of things that you've been dealing with all year.
At the end of a game, when you look at a true winner, you look for somebody that's humble.
I don't get into what's a true winner? Let's talk about that. What's a true winner?
Like a respected athlete.
Yeah, I mean,
when you look at respect, that's what I think of a true winner.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I'm for it. Yeah. I'm all for it.
I don't know what that is. I'm sure I'm sure it looks a certain way, but I'm not one of those people that tells. Did I love the gesture? No, but does it go with sports? Absolutely. And I think two things can be true at once. And I'm not going to class is she not a true winner? Because that's.
Oh no, Angel Reese is a winner.
Okay,
she's a winner.
Just a different kind of winner.
I just didn't like how she went about doing it.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that she did it. I am all for during competition getting a little ish, right?
Yeah.
Going back and forth, especially if one person's doing it, another doesn't.
How about after I hit back-to-back threes from the logo and an Elite Eight, and I go over and I show my jersey and I three it. Is that too much, or is it because it's in the moment?
So when she did that, didn't do it to a certain player.
Okay, we got rules. Okay.
So it's not just a rule. It's when it comes to sportsmanship, like it is a little different. If you're doing it to your fans and you're hyping up your fans, that's like doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of a football game, right? Mm-hmm. The time's winding down, you're hyping up your fans, whatever. But when you're like head to head with a person, it feels different. It gives you that gross feeling in your stomach. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's too egregious. Like I don't want to sit here and
have you ever seen guys do that at the end of the game? Have you ever seen guys look up somebody after a game and say something to them?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't have an example. I don't have a
There's-
so-called receipt of that. I don't know. I
just wanted to know. I'm just
But
curious.
I'm not here saying that, hey.
No, like strong takes are fine. I'm saying I would just like to know what the difference is in when men and women do it.
See, I don't even think there was a difference.
Okay.
I really don't. If I saw a guy today, and I am probably the worst at recency bias. I am probably the worst at that because that's all I attribute it to at the end. If you showed me a video right now of somebody doing something very similar, I'd be like, yeah, I don't like that. But I don't remember that right now because the only thing I do remember is what I saw last night.
Was Terrell Owens a bad sport when he ran to the star? I just asked the questions. I can't hear anybody. I can't hear anybody.
I don't know that.
This dude ran to the midfield logo. We've seen guys plant flags in the middle of the field logo.
Was anybody okay with Baker Mayfield?
I don't, but it didn't turn into this.
It had similar response on national TV.
Because the fan base was mad. That's okay. We've seen people stomp on logos. We've seen guys after they make a game-winning play, they kick the dirt as if to say, "Get out of here." Like we've seen this before. But yesterday, I think if Mulkey for some was had a little bit higher Q rating, and there are lots of women that love her. Love how she's empowered. Love how she does her thing. If you're playing against her, I get it. She's brash. She doesn't dress the way you want her to. She doesn't answer some of the. Go back and pull up Kim Mulkey on transgenders playing sports.
Oh, I know what you said.
Okay, so she's been 65% of her time on the court. She'll quote Jim Croce. You don't mess around with Kim. Or however she said it, right? Like I get it, and we're a little heightened because of Staley's meltdown after the game, and Staley took it way too far. Like once you drop the word monkeys, you make it not believable, right? Because I don't believe that's what she heard with gossip. So there was a lot of convoluted points in that she said. I kind of got what she was saying. Because social media was letting them have it, and people kept screenshotting all the things that different fan bases had said to them. But those are fans being fans. That wasn't anybody in the media that we know of because she didn't name anybody in the media. So I think I think the intersection of heightened hypersensitivity to people wanting to play the perceived race card we were a little on edge. And I felt like yesterday was a culmination of it spilling over the top. And I just didn't like a couple of things can be true at once. You cannot like what she did and not have it turn into what it turned into on social media. You know, like it may have been immature. It may have been whatever. But, I mean, it went pretty far yesterday. And don't let me talk you off the hill, right? I mean, because I'm listening to you. A couple things caught me off guard, like true winner. Like I still want to know that. I'm not going to hold you to that, but I just don't understand why we want everything to be the same up until like this mythical point between men and women's sports, right? If you want the good, you can't just have the good. If you want it all, you get it all. You can't pick and choose and then put them back into this box because you think they're these unspoken gender roles that they have to adhere to.
But I don't even think it has anything to do with male and female.
But why aren't we as upset when guys do it? That's my point.
But
I heard this awkward silence when I talked about Terrell Owens.
Right. And it's because it's not something that happened yesterday. You see something in the Final Four or in the final tonight of something similar like that, you'd see a response.
Okay.
And I truly believe that you'd get that response from people. But I also think this.
How many head taps have you seen?
I also think this. How heavily watched women's basketball became yesterday gathered that response.
Probably. And I think people were upset at the officiating too.
There
was a lot of things that contributed to that.
That didn't help one bit.
And by the way, 4 officials that I talked to, 3 out of the 4 would have issued a technical. 1 said he would have given the warning.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we come back. We'll also set up the show. Stick with us. It's Coffee and Cream here on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Morris has to get it across. Kim Mulkey, in year 2, has orchestrated a turnaround for the ages. LSU has captured its very first national championship.
Hey, welcome back. It was the most watched, anticipated game in women's college basketball history. And the number one thing, we'll say the two things people are taking away from this game are what? Officiating and trash talking. Who won that game? Anybody know?
LSU.
Anybody know? LSU put up 102 points. The most outrageous scoring affair I've seen in a college basketball championship game. And we're sitting here talking about trash talk and officiating. Now, that's okay. You can, and you can also acknowledge that. But that's also an issue. It's an issue that we're sitting here and we're focusing on two little things that ended up being these big things that blew up during the game or after the game.
And I'm here for it, right? Like,
why did the trash talking happen? Well,
888-638.
Yeah, give us a call.
4876 live from the H&H Chevrolet.
What side are you on?
I'm here for it just because I watched the guy hit a game-winning shot in an NBA championship. He grabbed the ball. He stood on the podium or whatever, I almost said the desktop where the dudes are, and he gave a salute.
Does that guy have a name that starts with an M and ends with Eichel Jordan?
Yep, he did. Nobody said a word.
So was social media around then? No. That's also something to keep in mind there.
But I think you can give me the contingencies. What I'm telling you is my general premise is we have a different sets of rules, even though we want equality across the board. If you want gender equality and you want people to be viewed as equals, that means you got to take the gunk with the good. That means you get all the accolades and you get all the resentment. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, right? We still are subconscious about crossing the lines. It's like we will never, ever talk about female athletes' weight, but we're quick to say Zion Williamson is too big, right? So it's just weird how we play these subconscious.
Yeah, there's a societal measure, though, with that weight argument, like with that weight thing, because in general.
How come men don't have to adhere to it?
It's because it's a disrespect thing in society.
Okay. So do you know who sets the norms? Do you know who controls the narrative? People, right? So that would 100%. Be me and you.
100%.
That means if it comes from somewhere. So if we as the people don't start to treat it as such, it won't be that way anymore. It's not like some mythical entity like sweeps in and says, okay, these are the rules to play by. This is what you can and cannot say. Now we set that. But it's like I just watched a guy hit it wasn't even a game winner. They won by 7. He made a shot in the paint. He's a little itty bitty guard. The clock's running out, and he puts his hand to the ground like you're too little. Man, that's just the NBA. Listen, what we're willing to accept and not accept is narrated by the culture that surrounds it. But we control that, so we don't have to subscribe to it. I didn't understand it, man. If it was in poor taste, it was in poor taste. It just did not deserve. It just didn't deserve the outrage. But when you call people classless pieces of POSs,
you take it to the extreme.
And my whole remember the catalyst for this whole thing is I can't believe how people just parrot what other people say without any homework. Did you see what I was watching over the break?
Yeah.
What was I watching over the break?
You were watching a compilation of all of Caitlin Clark's trash talking throughout a game.
Right. And
Which is why I said respect on her for being able to give it as much as she took it.
But nobody's ever called her classless.
Caitlin Clark?
Yeah.
So, and this is something that I think why.
Because more people were watching basketball yesterday than ever.
Why'd you watch the game yesterday?
She's
were you watching the national championship
she's the
game
best player in the country.
Right. Were you watching the game yesterday because you like women's basketball and you were watching the final? Not you, just the general public. Were you watching this game for that reason? Or were you watching it because Caitlin Clark was playing? Could you tell me another player playing in that game yesterday other than Caitlin Clark? Because somebody told you need to be watching this game because Caitlin Clark's playing. So then when it happens to Caitlin Clark, now you're drawing a sensitive side to people. Because the only reason they sat down in front of the TV yesterday to watch that game was to watch Caitlin Clark. So when it happens to her, it happens to the GOAT. Now all of a sudden it's this big issue.
But remember when Nebraska women's drew the big numbers and they kept saying for like 2 months they wanted to sell out against Iowa, and Scott Docterman said that there were X amount of extra people at the venue just to see Caitlin Clark, and Nebraska fans were offended. You remember?
I do remember that.
You remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
If you want the good, you have to take what comes with it. You can't situationally say, well, once you go to that kind of status, the rules of engagement are different. They just are, just like they are for everybody else that she is the best female player maybe in the world, certainly at the collegiate level, ever.
I'm with you.
So, I mean, can I just ask you something? Let me just ask you something hypothetically. Alex, Michigan Lance, it's your show. I'm going to stop here. Let's get them first, and then I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, let's go. We'll go to line 1 first and talk to Michigan Lance. Lance, you're on the show. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, boys.
How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. DB, this is right up my wheelhouse, man.
I know people get mad at you, but it's okay.
People get mad.
I read a great tweet. I read a great tweet. I chuckled Friday. It said, Michigan Lance doing what Michigan Lance does because you wanted more African American administration.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand what's wrong with that.
Anyway,
hit us with your
right.
take here.
Yeah.
No, that was great.
WWMLD. What would Michigan Lance do?
Right. It's like I don't understand. Like, you don't think the black players feel like that's okay? Like, hey, but anyway, play for Nebraska. But man, listen, I try to be consistent as much as I can. Right, no matter what subject or people, person, place, or thing we're talking about. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a fan of Don Staley, okay? But I'm not blind to the fact, and I'm for black coaches, but I'm not blind to the fact that Don Staley got out-coached on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not the first time I've seen it.
Zero question about that.
The first time I saw it was a couple years ago in the championship, or maybe it was a semifinal against Stanford, the one that Stanford won.
Yep.
And I'm like, hold on, what's going on here? Why isn't she doing this? That what is she doing? Mm-hmm. And so now I found out for sure. Okay, I was right. You know what I mean? Like now, second time it started becoming a trend, and now we get to Mulkey and LSU and Iowa and Caitlin. Like these are kids. Let me not just say the kids part, but just the emotions of all you heard all tournament was how great Caitlin Clark is, right? We've never seen anything like this before. When actually we have. We saw it with Cheryl Swoops.
No, like Swoops was fantastic. Listen, I'm team Swoops. Her 177 in the tournament and total games played for points scored was decimated by Caitlin Clark. And
no, I'm with you. Yeah, but that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
But remember now, they were talking about this run all tournament and then got more hyped in the semifinal. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah. I get it.
Like Swoop's name didn't get mentioned until yesterday about when they said, oh, she's close to 177 or she has it. She's about to break it. And I'm like, oh, I thought we never seen this before. I thought we never heard about it. And so you get the frustration and emotion of, okay, LSU is a well-coached team. Mulkey's a good coach. Predominantly black players, but I think there's some connotation in that. I don't know if it's all that, but it's kind of like, remember when I talked about Gonzaga Baylor? If Gonzaga would have won a couple years ago, or if Iowa would have won, it would have been, great coaching, great fundamentals, great this and that. But LSU did it. They did what South Carolina didn't do. Play the right way, fundamentals.
Okay.
Michigan Lance, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. Alex, Asian Wyatt, stick around. We'll get to you after the break. It's Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, 888-638-4876. If you'd like to get involved, it's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Let's go to the phones. Alex on line 2 here to chat with us. Alex, good morning. Alex, you there?
Oh, there he is. I hear him.
This is Wyatt.
Oh, what's up, Asian
Alex
Wyatt?
is gone.
How are you?
Asian Wyatt here. What's going on, man?
Well, before I get all fired up, my 2-year-old loves your whole music. I should dance along to that.
At least one of us does.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
Okay. And I just started listening at 7:30, so I was hoping you'd talk about this because I'm a little fired up about this because, David, I told you I grew up playing basketball, not organized ball, but just playing on the playground almost every day, all the time. And anywhere you go now, at playground, YMCA, that level of trash talk is so mild. That is nothing. And what do we look back on right now? Like you say, well, that's more of a collegiate professional. Who do we celebrate all the time during the professional? Why do we love Reggie Miller? We love him for doing that choking sign against the Knicks. We love those memories of Scotty Pippen walking over Patrick Ewing. Moments like that are celebrated because we love it. That's because it's part of the game. And
did you hear T. Lou on the podcast with Ryan Clark about getting stepped over by Iverson?
I missed that.
Yeah, like he talked about how it changed his mentality on how to do sports even at that level. Like we didn't have a problem with that.
No, that's so mild. It's nothing, and I do think because it is the double standard. Why we were making a bigger deal about it in this situation than any other situation, only on men's or NBA side.
Oh. Did you find it weird she did it twice?
No.
So you don't think that helped spark it?
I didn't either.
I was like, well, no, it doesn't bother me at all because this in itself it's so mild in itself that I don't care, and I bet
Caitlin Clark probably doesn't either.
Oh, she didn't even see it, or she probably out of the corner of her eye. She probably just didn't want to admit it.
She's the type of person to keep receipts and go get 90.
But it goes back to her and being able to take it and dish it.
Exactly. I say I don't think she cares. She's like, you know what? I bet she said, you know what? You earned it. You know what? That's it. I guarantee you, she's gotten way worse on any growing up playing and doesn't get exactly right. So.
Asian White, I appreciate
the call, man.
Yep, not a problem.
I love her.
Let's
be a dad.
Let's go to line 4, Shane, and talk to T-Mac. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing? This is T-Mac.
T-Mac, what's up, buddy?
Nothing much, DB. How you doing, sir?
I'm good.
All right. So, hey, this is my first time calling in. I kind of wanted to touch on the Caitlin Clark thing.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a guy that looks at nonverbals, and when I'm watching her, the Reese girl on the free throw line, when she did it in her face at the line, and then she turned her head back, man, that eye roll was bad. Like to me in the game, it seems like there must have been something. And I don't hear a lot of people saying anything about that. And I've been, going down this rabbit hole all night watching the comments or whatnot.
Yeah.
And there definitely has been a difference in the tenor of the responses from people. And
sure
to me, one thing that leads to that is the varied audience. I mean, there were people that tuned in to watch the tournament for her because of her talent. And if you like the style of play that she has, it attracts people because it's high level basketball. But there's also a lot of people that tuned in that only knew her because of the points that people talked about, and that, hey, she's a female Steph Curry, so we'll tune in and watch. And so you got people that probably just heard about it on some morning show or something that tuned in. And so that's where some of the pearl clutching, in my opinion, comes from. But I'll end it on this. I watched a video called The Queen of Clapback. And it's on YouTube, and it's about her and her teammates talking about her fiery personality and how she gets back at people when things happen.
I just watched that I just was showing Andrew that video.
Yeah, if you read the comments, the differences of reading that comment, and look, I'm not making it anything, I'm just doing it as I see it. The differences in those comments to me kind of speaks volumes. But hey, man, I love listening to the show. DB, I care about you a lot, man. Keep doing what you guys are doing.
I appreciate it, man. He brought up a great term there, personality. Here's where I'm going to take this now. And maybe it's unfair that, because you brought up the point of, why are people on kind of two different sides of the fence here when talking about this issue? Maybe it's my personality. Maybe I should do some self-reflection into me now, because my personality wouldn't do that. So that's why I react that way.
So here's that's fair, right? That's probably 98% of the people, right? Whatever you would do or kind of how you see it is kind of how you feel. For me, I've had it done to me. I've done it. And I just think at the end, this is my thing. I think at the end of the day, people, when they're competing, don't care. They know what comes with the territory. It's everybody else on the periphery that has strong takes. People that call people classless POSs have never competed at anything, won and lost in their life. It's just too strong of a take for someone that hasn't been there. And I'm not one of those guys that thinks, well, if you do it, you can't speak on it. I'm saying, which is what the original point of the whole conversation was, I can't believe how people just regurgitate what other people say without doing their homework. I
can't argue that.
Ask Nebraska women's fans how they feel about Caitlin Clark and trash talking. It's different. And it's not even a race thing, because 95% of the people that were in the arena that day looked more like you than they did me. And they were still offended. So I don't, but it's part of the deal. And let me ask you this. Let's be honest. Do we know what would have, if Reese rolls the ball behind her going out of bounds? Does Reese doing that elicit a different feel than if Caitlin Clark does? And if the answer is yes, why?
No.
If the answer is no, then keep it moving. Like I said, 3 out of 4 guys that officiate. 3 said that they would have teched it. 1 said that he would have given the warning. Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, the guy that said that he would give it the warning looks closer to me than he does to you.
I would not have teched it.
So, I mean, and I don't know what happened before that, right? Well, had she been giving it to the officials? Because sometimes you give run-bys, you talk.
I've been on the receiving end of it, and I've been on the playing end of it. But here's what really, really took me by surprise was when the officials claimed that it was already a delay of game warning was already given, and they called that delay of game, which if you read the rules, that's in the rules. But if you read the rules even further, it clearly states when delay doesn't interfere with the play, it should be ignored. It was a dead ball. It should have been ignored. So the fact that the officials came out and said something, but later on in the rules, it proved that probably wasn't the thing. Yeah, it probably goes back to maybe Caitlin Clark had some type of tiff with the officials, and they were just looking for a chance to do it. It was the softest technical I've ever seen. Yeah, the softest one. And here's the other thing: when Caitlin Clark is in foul trouble,
was this your same energy for the Santee play and the inbounds? Like when we were like, I wonder what he did earlier to maybe warrant the technical on the when the ball hadn't been inbounds yet. Mm-hmm. Did you feel the same energy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so here's my thing here too.
Because the same energy would be, you wouldn't be talking about the spirit of the law, because immediately, if it was just about the spirit of the law with the Santee game, you wouldn't have even gotten into what were the pre-existing conditions that led to the inbounds technical.
Right. And I remember breaking both down.
But now it's okay. Even if she did something earlier, by the spirit of the law, we shouldn't have done this.
Correct. The law states here that it shouldn't have been called.
Okay.
But in the Santee game, the law clearly stated that it had to be called way.
What difference did the preemptive stuff mean in either case then? If it just boils down to the letter of the law?
It's 2 different points. the preemptive stuff is one thing. This is another. Yes, they can bleed into each other.
If preemptive needs to validate, then it's okay. If preemptive,
but it's not about. I'm not saying it has to validate.
Isn't superseded by the letter of the law, then not.
No, it has. Okay, so I'm not saying it has everything to do with what leads to a call.
Okay,
but in an official's mind, you're playing a basketball game, DB, and you're in my ear constantly like that wasn't a foul, that was a foul, that wasn't a foul, that was, and you're constantly complaining to me. It's going to drive the official a little crazy, right? But that's not going to mean that I'm going to wait for you to make a mistake so I can call a technical on you. It all comes back to the law itself.
But you realize these people are human too, right? Mm-hmm. Like emotions do factor in, right?
1,000%. But what kind of had me on edge in this game about officiating was the fact that Caitlin Clark had 4 fouls because of that technical, for one, but that she had 4 fouls in the third quarter. How many games did Caitlin Clark this year? Take a guess. How many games she had 4 fouls?
Of the 38 or whatever?
Of all the games that she had 4 fouls.
4
games. How many games did she foul out?
None.
She fouled out 1 time.
Okay.
And I think it was because it was late in the game. I didn't watch the Illinois game. They ended up losing that game. But it's the fact that this game was so heavily watched because of Caitlin Clark and the rest of the company, and you're putting her on the bench half the game. That's another reason why officials were getting attacked.
Jay, out of breath, Brian, stay right there.
Hang on.
Can we get him one more? We may. Stay there.
Hang on.
Sam McKewon coming
We're on one today.
Next.
Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes.
I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because he was or today was at practice, and I know how much it meant to him probably that because he played for Coach. So, Coach Sol. I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because he was or today was at practice, and I know how much it meant to him probably that because he played for Coach. So, Coach Solich, like Coach Osborne, their impact and their legacy has nothing to do with the amount of wins in the national championships. It's the way they coach their players. They both prove that you can win championships and develop really good men. And, we're in a day and age where a lot of schools think it's one or the other, and they proved it's both. So I'm excited to have them back. I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because I'm excited to have him back.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because he was or today was at practice, and I know how much it meant to him probably that because he played for Coach. So, Coach Solich, like Coach Osborne, their impact and their legacy has nothing to do with the amount of wins and the national championships. It's the way they coach their players. They both prove that you can win championships and develop really good men. And, we're in a day and age where a lot of schools think it's one or the other, and they proved it's both. So I'm excited to have him back.
Hey, just like Matt Rule, I've been talking to Damon Benning all morning here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio.
I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because he was.
That's the first time he's ever went first name, last name on me.
It's a cool thing. It's kind of cool.
So I'm at basketball and my phone's just going bananas. But it's from one of my favorite Gretna folks, Mr. Nielsen. And I didn't know what he said. So full disclosure, I DM'd him like 30 minutes later, and I go, "Are you messing with me? Like, what was said?" But then everybody was sending it to me. So then I finally figured it out, but I had no idea because I went straight to basketball.
And I can understand how you're like, man, this could either be like really basic or like really deep. There's no in between.
Nah, he's a good egg.
Let's go back to the phones here, Shane. We'll start with Jay on line 1. Jay, good morning. You are on Coffee and Cream. What's up, man?
What's going on, fellas?
How you doing?
Jay, we're getting to you and Brian before we get to Sam, so you're important.
Oh, wow. That just means I got like 10 seconds before you start. That's good or bad.
What's up, buddy?
I don't even know Brian in real life, but I hate his nickname. You know what I'm saying? But look. Y'all touched on a lot of different things this morning. I would say this, man. I know you got to do your job, but this Caitlin situation is not a story, bro. It's not even nothing to talk about.
I don't think so either, man. I don't.
It's not a story, but it's okay though. It's just it is a grand example of the consciousness of our country. You know what I'm saying? We get tossed and swayed by any old thing. And the fact that the little white girl talked trash and then she got beat in the championship by another star, which was Reese, right? And she talked trash is now a big controversy. It is what it is. But anyway, this is what I called to talk about. I called to talk about real briefly. Shout out to our new youth pastor, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Pastor Rule, who actually is coach. Pastor Rule is doing an amazing job engaging kids, man. And I'm gonna ride with Michigan Lance, but even though I can see Pastor Rule is doing the best he can to kind of even that out, and I'm gonna shout out to Trev Alberts. So let me pause real quick, man. This is what we need to shout out real quick. We need to shout out Trev Alberts because Trev is being very intentionally strategic about what he is trying to do, right? For the first time, even though I'm kind of mad at the media too, which is another call. We'll get there. You feel me? Eventually. But I want to shout out Trev Alberts because he's being intentional in rebuilding the Nebraska program, using the tools and the ingredients that made it what it was years ago. When he got Matt Rule, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of shaky. And then now that I see, you know what I mean, what Rule is implementing, I'm saying, okay, I get it, Trev, because Matt Rule is strategic. When you see people being very meticulous with large groups of people, that means that they have thought about everything that they would like to impart into these young people. And first and foremost, you can see he is trying to impart upon them character and understand where they play and how important it is for them to never trivialize this opportunity. Regardless of wins, regardless of that, they first and foremost have to be excited and proud that they made it this far. And then they have to be taught how important it is, how amazing it is for them to get this far. And then as they continue to grow in that, then they'll start to take responsibility in making sure they represent the university that they play at in a dope way. What we had in the past, right? And this is why I'm mad at the media. I wish y'all would have told us how raggedy Frost was, so we wouldn't, you know what I'm saying, be all excited thinking that we were going to get a product that no one was actually making. You feel me? Like, we were anticipating a product that no one was in the kitchen cooking. Nobody was trying to do, you know what I'm saying, what we expected as fans. My man was just kind of, I don't know, you know what I mean? Right. For whatever reason, I felt like he lost it. And now we're finding it out after he's gone. So I'm kind of mad at y'all. And I want y'all, I need somebody in the media. When I say mad at y'all, I mean as the media in entirety, somebody in the media has to keep it real. Just because as fans, we get, like, come on, man. We get tossed piles of steaming poo in every aspect of our life, you know what I'm saying? So at some point, somebody needs to be real and be like, no, this was really what's going on in the program. Or they have to risk being, I guess, looked down upon by the Nebraska media staff by just keeping it real, asking the questions that need to be asked. And I think with this coaching staff, we'll get real answers. So I said a lot. I said, one, Caitlin is not a story. Let's let it go. Two,
she's a story in itself, but what you referred to,
I agree.
It's probably overblown.
I agree.
Jay, we appreciate the call, man. Let's go to line 2 real fast and get to out of breath Brian.
Shane, call Sam.
Brian, what's up, man?
What's going on, fellas?
Hi, B.
Hey, just tell the caller before me. You might not like my nickname on the show, but it's not my government. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, we dubbed that. We should probably own that. Huh?
Yeah. You asked me if it was okay. That's not.
I did.
So,
patting the name.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
When you used to go off, I was worried that I'm like, oh my God,
he's gonna pass out.
I used to go off what he was. I used to go off on what he used to go off about.
Yeah.
Like, why y'all didn't say nothing? But I was at the same breath, since I am out of breath. All right, use your eyeballs. You could tell wasn't nothing being cooked. All them players was coming out to the football field raw, ice cold. Okay, there you go. Now, me personally, hey, make that 2 or 5 officials name it. I would have called that. Delayed game. Gave him a warning. Delayed game. Why give him I use text as like, hey, just to rein you in. You getting a little out of control. I know emotions.
Yeah, I didn't think it should be a tech either. I'm with you.
I'm like, why y'all give a tech? Y'all should have rushed y'all butt over and got the ball. Y'all, you look like y'all was just more insult.
Where was everybody?
They were taking their time. That's why I know you don't like when I get on, but I'm going to keep saying, my pet peeve out of all officials is college basketball officials. I have no idea what they're calling. They don't call legal guarding right. They 2 feet get down you in front.
Right. I'm all right with it. Appreciate the
thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'll tell you what though. Adding to the technical talk, like people were warranted in their reaction for Kim Mulkey and making contact with the official and way out of her coach's box and wanting a tech there, and then seeing a tech on Caitlin Clark and the softest moment.
I lack objectivity because I like her, but you can't do what she did.
Caitlin Clark.
Kim Mulkey.
Oh, Kim Mulkey. I didn't know which one we were talking about.
But remember, you don't mess around with Kim.
Sam McKewon joining us now on the show, as this is his usual segment, although it turned into a little bit of fan reaction.
Well, we give him 30 minutes, man. We love Sam.
I know. We appreciate Sam taking a few extra minutes off before hopping on with us, the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, at SW McKewon, OWH on Twitter. Sam, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Hey, Sam, since we were talking about it, I'll ask you before we move on and talk Nebraska football from over the weekend. But where do you draw the line with boastful reactions like you saw last night, or do you ever draw lines with it?
I don't have any issue with anything that happened yesterday.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I suppose there is a gesture or two that would be inappropriate. I don't know if that's
where you draw the line.
Really, yeah, absolutely. But there wasn't anything that happened in that game last night or yesterday or on Friday. I don't recall. So I mean, there's a couple of things that I feel like I've seen over the years that were. Marshall Henderson did something inappropriate. I can't remember what he did exactly, but he did something inappropriate one game several years ago. The Mississippi player.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not. That wouldn't be me. I'm not the person who gets really wrapped up in that.
Was Keith Duncan out of line, Sam?
Who?
What did I say? Keith was Duncan out of line? Iowa's kicker, was he out of line when he beat Nebraska?
The Shush.
Yeah,
I think his first name is that. No.
Okay.
So.
Was Tristan Alvano out of line?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
no.
I just there's this part of me, Sam, that thinks like it. We still try to box women's sports subconsciously into this box when we let it go all the time in the men's game. All the time.
Right. No, I think that's very true. I think that's accurate. That there's a double standard for women. Yeah, I think that's very true. And Caitlin Clark is a player who's very demonstrative all the time, and I think she's certainly somebody who would understand and expect a gesture or two in return.
She couldn't. She probably couldn't give a what? Not a care.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think she probably did. I will admit that there are times when I'm not always sure why she does what she does, and not because she's a woman. I don't know that she's always doing it in the sense of sense of humor and fun. There's times when I feel like she does it because that's what she thinks she's supposed to do or something. And so I don't, if that makes sense. I've watched a lot of her games, and I don't know that I would describe her as having a great sense of humor on the court.
And listen,
she's like a mean competitor.
So there were a couple guys.
Yeah.
There were a couple of guys this weekend with a couple of the AAU teams that were in town for the recruit look deal that play in Iowa that used to play with her, right? Because she used to play on guys' teams, right?
Right.
And she was the exact same way, and it was celebrated.
Right.
So it's like I was saying earlier. You got to take what comes with the platform she's on because she's the best on the planet.
Right. Yeah. She's doing a great job, and again, I don't have any issue with really any of that stuff. I think that we have to normalize that behavior. If we're going to say it's fine for boys and young men and NBA players to do it, then the same is true of the girls and women. The only point I'm making with Clark is I think sometimes there's people who do not like her game because of this stuff, and I wonder if she's aware of that or if she cares.
She doesn't. She shoots 58% beyond 25 feet. She's good.
Right.
Maybe behind 35 feet.
Dude, she's 58% from 25.5 or greater. That's insane. It's insane.
And she creates her own.
Yeah. When Angel Reese did that yesterday, I'm like, well, that's a player who understands who Caitlin Clark is.
Do you remember how she was giving it to Nebraska fans in front of 12,000 a couple months ago?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
giving it to Nebraska fans.
Yeah, I think she likes playing in Nebraska, actually. That's my understanding. So I think Nebraska brings out, lots of good things in Iowa athletes and has for many years.
Stop.
I mean, Iowa
Stop it.
takes that rivalry very seriously. Maybe they shouldn't, but they do. And in basketball, I don't know that Iowa has a rival, like they claim to have in football with Minnesota and Wisconsin. And they do. Don't get me wrong, but Minnesota and Wisconsin aren't nearly as good as Nebraska. So I think Iowa takes great pleasure in beating Nebraska in basketball, women's basketball for sure.
Sam, what'd you make of the comments that I thought it kind of is understated, where Coach Rule was basically intimating this is Nebraska's team. I want the state to rally around this team. Like, what I'm doing is just a microcosm of sharing this team, whether it's with Coach Solich, whether it's with how they play. He's back to kind of this ambassador thing. He reminds me of a guy that told us we were only playing for two things. And actually it was 2.5. Ourselves was last. First was our family. Second was the state. Do you remember the guy that said you're basically playing for three things? Your family, your state, and yourself. Everything else is irrelevant. Do you remember the guy that used to utter those phrases?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rule, I mean, I think your insight on this is greater than mine. I would say that
it's really not.
Yeah, it is though, because I think here's why. I think there is something that I wouldn't understand, not being a former Nebraska football player, that you do understand, that is unique to that brotherhood and that experience, that for many reasons has been disconnected for a while now. And, I think Matt Rule can access that to some degree. Maybe he understands it because he's a former Penn State player, although I don't know that he would describe his Penn State relationship the way that maybe some former Nebraska players would describe the relationship to Nebraska. It's hard for me to tell with Rule. He doesn't talk a lot about Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be on purpose. That may be, I don't want people to think that I'm going to leave here if James Franklin leaves Penn State. But anyway, I think he's done a good job in a very short amount of time of trying to bring together all of these disparate groups of people. He's also, I think, won over Coach Osborne, but I also think that Coach Osborne is maybe ready or prepared to embrace somebody who isn't from the tree. And so I think that's also true. I think Osborne's probably done some things on his own, irrespective of what Rule's done to make this process a little easier. And then, I think, but you can tell me how it's resonated. It's not like we've called up 50 former Husker football players and asked them what they thought of that. And ultimately that's what matters, because we get, they're probably not going to be a great team in year one.
Sam,
Rule's not pretending they're going to be. So.
Yeah. So I would have to probably hang out with you a little bit just to talk myself off of, the love fest. I joke with Andrew all the time because he's with me all the time and he hears and he sees and I just said I've gotten to the point where I lack objectivity. I like him as a person. I like the way he is with his family. I like the way that he wants to run his program. I like how he's his own man. I mean, Sam, he's like, listen, I've got to live my life and be who I want to be. I'm not this and I'm not that. So when I'm out and you want to snap pictures or you want to do this, like, I'm okay with that because I know who I am. Those are all the things that secretly I either want and can't achieve or I admire because I love, right? So I don't think I can be objective. I just can't, because I'm all in on what he's doing.
Yeah, I think they're doing some good things there.
Now, that's not to say I don't have questions, because I do, right? Mm-hmm. I'm watching the staff work. I know he's got a couple budding stars. Terrence Knighton's going to be a star. But there's a couple guys I'm in wait and see mode. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I would say that, again, the way that he wants to go about building a culture and a program is reminiscent of a lot of what you would describe as effective leaders. And those leaders are, I can kind of tell the influence that he's had over time. And and I think he's a reader, so I think he reads a lot. And I think he incorporates certain ideas. And so I think he's a little bit ahead of the curve there. So yeah, I think you're talking about somebody who is just sort of a seeker of knowledge and a seeker of improving things. And I think he's done a pretty good job of building, again, a bridge to a lot of different factions. I think he knew that he was going to have to do that when he got here, because if you don't resolve those things, then you're asking for, frustration down the road. And the key question is he going to be able to take the time to do it? And can he get the players to get them all the way to the top? Because he would tell you too, he can do a lot of things culturally and system wise, but you still have to have the players. And I don't think they have enough yet. Yeah. I think they have some, but I don't think they have enough to go where they want to go. And where they want to go is where Michigan is. And that's a tall order at this point.
Sam, I read an interesting piece talking about how it's becoming easier to sell hope, whether the wins and losses are there. And it's not just football. Basketball is a great example too. TCU's runner-up finish, of course. But of the 16 recruiting classes fielded by the Final Four programs in the past 4 cycles, only UConn in 2021 cracked the top 18 nationally in the composites. So when it comes to Nebraska football now and the down years that haunted and still haunt this program, is that why Rule has an advantage, because he's one of the best to ever sell hope and also deliver it?
If you're talking about in recruiting, yeah, I think he's going to be effective in getting some kids to come here. Moreover, and I think this is what's more important, I think Matt Rule is going to be effective in determining and crossing off the list what he doesn't want. So some of scouting and some of recruiting and some of drafting is a process of elimination. And football is a weak link game. I've said that many times before. That's not my term.
That is so good.
Gladwell's term. But it is a weak link game. So you're defined by your weaknesses, not by your strengths. Basketball is the opposite. Basketball is a strong link game. And so UConn is in the Final Four because of Jordan Hawkins and Adama Sanogo and maybe one other guy, Caravan, who's become a very good freshman. And there's other things about why basketball is the way it is that we don't need to get into. But in football, it's a weak link game. And so the things that vex you the most in football are the problems that you cannot solve within the course of a season, whether that's cultural or positional group. And so Matt Rule is going to do a good job of eliminating what he thinks the team doesn't need or doesn't want. That's why when they had the unofficial visit with the 30 guys last weekend, not every guy is gonna file an official visit after that. I'm just telling you, because they would have gone through the weekend and go, okay, now that we've seen all these guys and we've met them, here's guys we don't want. And I guarantee you they did that. And it may not have been more than one guy, but I guarantee you there's going to be guys that are like, yep, this isn't what we want. We don't want this. We want this. The 2 kids from California, they want them because they're coming back April 22nd. So I think Rule's going to do a good job of determining what he wants in his program and what he doesn't want in his program. And I think in that way, he's going to be an effective recruiter. Certainly you can sell hope, but sometimes when you sell hope, you're also selling, I don't know what the right word is. You can't falsely advertise. Let's put it that way. And he's not going to.
I almost want to keep you for about 4 or 5 more minutes, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'll wait till next week, but man, if you when you get ready to hang up and you say to Shane, hey, I'll wait through the break, I'll definitely take it, but I won't make you do it. How's that, Sam? Peer pressure.
That's fine.
Okay, buddy. We'll talk to you in a sec.
All right.
I was going to say, Sam, I don't think you gave him a choice. I like how you said, I'm going
I'll
to leave it
still
up to
be
you to
here.
talk to Shane, but we'll talk to you after the break. So I guess we're talking to Sam after the break. Stick around.
Ooh, wait.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Thanks for holding through the break for all of you out there, especially our guy, Sam McKewon, who is still on the line because DB convinced him to stay. So, DB, great work on your part. And Sam, great work on your part for sticking around and dealing with us for another 10-ish minutes. Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Hey, Sam. So let me ask you something, because I'm watching this thing and I'm listening, and I want rank these things for me in terms of what you think Nebraska's offense needs to do what Coach Rule and Coach Satterfield want to do. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Run the football, not turn it over, or have the ability to hit the shot play. Put those three in order.
Well, I would say, in my opinion, not turn it over, run the ball, hit the shot play. And the reason that the last two are in order is because one follows the other. So if you can't, and granted, Nebraska was able to hit some long passes last year with Trey Palmer, really irrespective of being able to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way that Nebraska wants to function is they want to be able to run the football, and then they want to be able to play action it and kind of throw it over the top. So certainly not turning it over. You know, again, process of not losing, I think, would be the thing that I would say is most important. Trying to limit your turnovers to 1 per game or 1.5 per game,
mm-hmm.
which in a 12-game season gets you to 18 versus 30 a season.
So if that's the, because I'm vibing, right? I'm kind of nodding my head. I'm like, okay, I could see that as a coach. Does that order change the way that you look at the prospective quarterbacks?
Well, a little bit. Although, you know, the quarterback who's going to reduce your turnovers the most is Casey Thompson. And the reason is because you would not run the ball as much with Casey as you would with Jeff or Heinrich Hartberg or Chubba Purdy. Anytime that you introduce the quarterback run element, which they intend to do, clearly, you are increasing the risk of turnovers because of ball handling issues and fumbles from the quarterback. Because quarterbacks don't have as good a ball security as running backs. They just don't. And so,
although the way they're hitting them, they got a better chance than they ever have this year. But you're right.
Right.
Because they just don't put quarterbacks through the running back drills.
They don't put them through the drills, and you know, they just don't generally protect the ball as well as running backs do. Because there's just a variety of reasons. And so, simultaneous to wanting to not turn it over, they're going to probably introduce an element of the offense that increases the likelihood of turnovers, which simultaneously makes it, you know, hard to know exactly how to balance that out. And so, you know, what coaches always want to do is the perfect balance of, we're going to run the quarterback 9 times a game, and he's not going to get touched, and he's going to run 9 times for 45 yards, and it's going to be at just the right time as an accent to our run game. Like people envision that in their mind,
yeah.
And then they get in the games, and we had to run the guy 16 times because we ran him 4 times on 3rd and 3.
Hey, why are you bringing up old stuff? That's about how it went too.
Yeah, like that's just kind of how it goes. And so you have to they'll have to try to balance that out. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. So those are always kind of the questions that you have to walk through. But Matt Rule wants to run the football, and he wants to run with the quarterback because I think he believes that will give them, you know, an explosive component that they can, you know, use going forward. If you're Georgia, you don't have to run. And Stetson Bennett actually is a pretty good runner, but you don't have to run you don't have to run the quarterback if you're Georgia. You didn't have to run the quarterback if you're Michigan, even though J.J. McCarthy's a good runner. Michigan finally starts deciding to run the ball with a quarterback in the second half of the bowl game because they weren't going to come back otherwise. So usually your quarterback run is designed to either out of desperation you start doing it, or you build in the identity of we have to run the quarterback because we're not going to run for 200 yards without running the quarterback. And I think that's where Nebraska's at. That's a long answer, but
I like it.
I'm sure they think about it a lot, and I'm sure they try to process what they want to do.
And you don't need your quarterback to be Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields either. Like you can be okay with the J.J. McCarthy, Stetson Bennett runs, those short runs, just as you kind of said, Sam, as your last resort sort of thing. But you sparked deep thought over the weekend by asking one simple question. I read your piece just kind of encompassing your thoughts in Rule's press conference. And you wrote a question, where will Rule innovate? And I'm like, like where will he innovate in this offense to make it look different? And it's a great follow-up to what you were kind of just talking about. But how does Nebraska get ahead and stay ahead of all of its peers? I know you mentioned program building as kind of his piece, but if you really had to dive into the X's and O's, where is Rule ahead of the curve?
I don't know that there are a lot of curves left to get ahead of. There might be, I'm defensively, there's some things that are still out there. Offensively, we've gone to the new age. We've gone back. I still think, the Kansas City Chiefs do some fun things with their offense that I suppose is innovative in like the small eye sense, but in like groundbreaking, you don't always know until you see it what exactly it's going to be. And I think we're getting closer and closer to the end of what you can do on offense short of rule changes that would be different from something that you didn't see once upon a time. So, if I was building an offense, I would say, well, give me Joe Burrow and those three receivers. I don't know that I have to be innovative. I just need to have Joe have protection, and then his receivers have time to get open. And that's a pretty hard football team to beat when it really matters. And they almost went into Kansas City and won. So, I think that it comes down to players and that. I think where Rule's going to be innovative, or is going to try to be innovative, is building this culture and then emphasizing player availability through, recovery techniques and health components. And I don't know if, I don't want to guarantee that he's right, but I do think that Rule has some definitive opinions about Gen Z kids, and he believes very firmly in his ability to develop people.
Oh, that is a
fantastic
point.
I'll be curious to see how some of the things that he does and some of the things that he wants to build. I think he feels very confident about how he might be able to do that.
Sam, why do you say that? Why do you say you're kind of saying like he understands this generation, like he's confident in the ability to reach them? Why do you say that?
Just the way he talks about the student athletes and the idea that they want to be competitive. He's like I think I said this last week on the Pick Six podcast. He's the first coach I've ever heard who spoke about video games in positive terms. And he said it very briefly last week. He was like, these kids are competitive. They grow up playing video games all the time, so they know how to compete and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that he's saying the video games are good. Mm-hmm. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to take the culture that is currently in place or currently available and take those things and try to morph them into something that would have been recognizable 25 years ago once you get on the field. And so, like, the challenge that he's going to have is, and there's nothing wrong with trying that process. He just, it's going to take time to build trust and to be right, and it takes longevity. And that's I think the test with Rule is if they turn it around within 3 years, is he going to stay? Like, he's going to have to ask himself those harder questions too, because he's been a turnaround artist at everywhere he's been. And so, is there going to be a moment where he's like, I'm not just going to turn this around, I'm going to sustain it? I think he can turn around Nebraska actually pretty quickly, because I think the culture can flip. Can the culture sustain? And, I don't know that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart's methodology is going to work at a lot of places because the players aren't just 45 miles away. The Rule's going to have to do it a little bit differently, but can he sustain it?
So is sustaining for you in talent is sustaining for you in talent acquisition? Is that what you're saying?
Talent acquisition, but also just staying in one place for many, many years. And, working through the second wave of failure. I think he's very comfortable struggling in year one. When the struggles come in year 6, what does that look like? Is he so that we'll see what happens.
Sam, thanks for sticking around with us. We appreciate your time, and we will talk again next week.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care.
Sam McKewon, sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald. Coming up, whatever else, right? We got a lot to get to. Stick around.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
I don't want to put my name.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
I don't want to put my name in that. I don't want to take any credit for anything because that was Trev. That was Coach Solich. That was probably Coach Osborne. And that was probably a lot of other people. But I expressed to Coach Solich how much it would mean to me to have him here. I so respect him. And I so respect him as a coach and what he did at Ohio and what he did here. And I really want everything to be about Nebraska. Like the first day they put my picture up in the elevator, and the second day it was down. And this is never about me. It's about the players, and Coach Solich coming into the first spring game, I think, is just hopefully a tremendously unifying event for everybody.
Coach Rule on the impact of Frank Solich coming back for the spring game. That audio courtesy of Hail Varsity's YouTube page. We appreciate our partners there, and we will talk to a Hail Varsity writer in the next hour.
Kind of been doing work
Damon
on
Benning,
social.
yes.
I like how he says what, and he doesn't have his mic on. What?
I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because he was.
I did. He texted me.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did I text you yesterday?
What did he say? Get your ish together.
Get your get your act together.
Did he give you the John Cena? You can't see me.
I think he had the 3 fingers, and
did he tap his rings?
Pulling the shirt.
We've seen bows Usain Bolt shoots a lightning bolt after he beats a guy in the 100, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. But he didn't seek out a competitor, so it was all good.
So is that considered trash talk?
Apparently not.
And that's where DB sits at the stipulations and the rules, and I get it. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're
I'm telling you, I do think, and my man Sam is with me. I do think it's a gender thing.
Can I ask one question about it?
I'm still not there, but I won't die on that hill either.
I just want to know one thing.
I mean, girls should get the trash talk too.
Absolutely.
Does it happen in other women's sports like volleyball, softball?
Volleyball is there. Listen, hey, go back. You can't go back and watch unless you pull it up on YouTube. Watch Wisconsin, Nebraska, and volleyball in Madison.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Wisconsin was giving it to Nebraska, and everybody's like cool with it because some things are just like you just get accustomed to. But when it happens and it's kind of out of sequence, and then it's like, right, egad.
Speaking of the national championship stage, I want to get to this
7.5
comment on YouTube for tonight's game. Yeah,
seems like it.
We do need to get into that at some point.
Yeah, there's a championship
game on tonight.
How about the women's game will dust the men's tonight? No, I won't. No. Retraction.
Early.
I'm not sure. It will. It has
You're leaning that way.
It has the capabilities.
Yes, it does. How many people was it? Like 6 point something million.
Yeah, I'll be
watching.
So it should be final in the Nielsen's now because usually they can do it by the next morning. Now,
but I want to get to this point on our comments on YouTube, and it was a point that I brought up earlier on in the show, and we kind of ran out of time, so I didn't have a full explanation to give, but I can give it now. So Thomas says, why does the fact that it was the national championship game matter to why Caitlin Clark had 4 fouls? There were tons of fouls given that game, and Clark was called for 4 because she committed them. We have to stop blaming officials for the shortcomings of players and teams. So here's what I was getting at with the foul calls and the officiating. The officials, well, we'll start here, deserved blame in this game from their audience because they made the game about them. And blaming officials will never go away because if you take the love of a team versus the love of a sport, whatever it is, you're going to have people point fingers at the officials. Always. It's never going away. As much as you may want it to go away, it won't. Because as a competitor, you played a game before where you thought the officials were unfair, calling X, Y, and Z foul on your team and not on the other team, and you were mad about it. So it's never going to go away. That's just always going to sit there. So people just need to rest with that. They need to be okay with the fact that officials are going to get blamed. And you also have to be okay that officials are going to make mistakes. That's that. The second part to my point here is this. Why did it matter that she had 4 fouls? Well, she got her 4th foul on the technical, which was at what time in the third quarter?
10 minutes.
10 minutes left in the third?
No, so it was at the end of the third.
At the end of the third.
Going into the
so
fourth.
going into the fourth quarter. So for 10 minutes, you have the best player on the basketball court unable to defend. Because in this game, you didn't know what was going to get called. You didn't know if a hand check was going to get called. Sometimes it did. A lot of times it didn't. You didn't know if, an offensive foul would get called on you for the hook that Caitlin Clark does and doesn't do on a lot of different occasions. She had to limit her game at that point because she was in foul trouble. That was my point with officiating, was the fact that my tiff with them was there were so many ticky-tack fouls in that game that led to a point to where you took away people. You took away Monica Zizano because when she had 4 fouls, she had to play cautiously. Now, did she? No. But when she fouled out with 7 minutes left in the game, you took away their biggest threat down low.
Although they're down 14.
They're down, but we saw how quickly they came back in the third quarter. They scored 14 points in 3 minutes.
They never were within 8, though. So even though I think the game was, I'll say this out loud, I think it's poorly officiated. I do. And a game in which it was only in single digits for, 14% of the game.
Mm-hmm. It was poorly officiated on both sides.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey, LSU was getting every call. They weren't. There were times where I'm like, how did LSU not get a foul call there?
I mean, at one point it was 21 and they'd gone on like a 16-2 run. So, I mean,
look, LSU was a better team. They won that game because they made their shots.
And wasn't Iowa favored?
They were by 3.5.
Yeah. Okay.
LSU played their kicks off.
You want to say
right?
You wanted to say ASS?
Something like that. But they did, and they were the better team. But what I was most worried about in the final 10 minutes wasn't, hey, is Iowa going to come back? It's, hey, when Caitlin Clark fouls out, how many people turn off the TV?
See, I like women's basketball, right?
That was my explanation.
So I'll watch Nebraska, Michigan State on the Big Ten Network on a Tuesday or Thursday, or something like that. So I watch it, and I did feel so. Part of my my disdain for how social media overreacted, and I know, I just don't think the Portneys of the world have earned the right to say what they said.
That's how he's made his living, though.
No, listen. So there's a difference between my opinion, which is I don't think he's earned the right, versus his ability to do so. He can do whatever he wants. My opinion is I don't think he's earned the right, especially to have everybody get on that train, right? There's people that we know that were echoing the same sentiment, and I know good and well. How many women's college games have you watched? It's in the single digits, I know, for some of these guys. So just stop with the fake outrage. The fake outrage thing. And listen, I'm an equal opportunity fake outrager. I thought Staley was full of crap. Right? I thought I did. Right. I was like, listen, stop with she was full of crap.
Right.
But it's the same way I felt on social media. Now, that's not to say I don't know what social media is about, because I do. I mean, the immediate reactions, and people say whatever they want to say, right? And if you're for those people, I just had this happen, a handful of weeks ago with New York Husker?
Yeah.
But because he said on Twitter that I knew ahead of time and I tried to act like I didn't.
Right.
That meant that I knew ahead of time for people that think like he does. It simply wasn't the truth.
Right.
But if you don't like my delivery, then you're going to be like, yeah, man. I'm like, bro, because he said it, that makes it so. That's not how this works. And the knucklehead, I see him all the time at OSA. It's one of these clowns, right? It's like, I see you all the time. I think it's Matt. I don't know. Somebody, John's, whatever. I'm like, you would never say that to me, right? I see you all the time. You don't even know me, but you feel the freedom to be able to say that on social media because you can without repercussions. That's cool, and I get it, but that doesn't make it so. That's just the reality that it just is what it is. And so when people are really like, they didn't probably watch more than, and do you watch off ball? Like, do you see what happens like during the course of the game? Are you familiar with some of the history, right? The 9 new players, the fact that LSU was a 3 seed, which in the women's game, if you followed the game, if you're outside the top 4,
I was going to say,
or 3,
you're probably an 8.
You're a long shot,
right?
And I get at 33, like you're a long shot.
Last week I said, hey, when you had a 1, 2, 3, 4, like that is better for women's than if you had the 5, 9, 4, 5 in the men's.
We've seen 40-point wins in top 20 games, top 20 matchups. We've seen 40. So it's like, I mean, that was a big win.
A huge win for them. And their bench was outstanding. Who came off the bench? What's
how
her name?
How about
just
the shot?
Didn't miss a 3.
Just the shot making. But anyway, so I'm like, I get like the playground, and I'll play any game. I just want to know the rules, right? Like, you want to play it this way? Okay, that's cool. What are the rules? Like, it doesn't really matter. Just let's all be playing with the same set of rules, and we'll play.
SDSU tonight. A 7.5-point dog. Too many?
Seems like a lot.
Seems like a lot. We've been saying that with SDSU this entire tournament from, I would say, the Sweet 16 on.
Hey, but UConn is rolling. They need to take about 12 days off and cool the heck off.
Yeah, we'll talk more college basketball later on in the show. We'll have the sports cleanup as well. But coming up next, Brady Oltmans. We are talking Nebraska football once again next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
I don't know that. I know there were former players here today. So I mean, we've been we're open to them. So I'm sure that'll mean a lot to a lot of guys. Like I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because he was or today was at practice, and I know how much it meant to him probably that because he played for Coach. So Coach Solich, like Coach Osborne, their impact and their legacy has nothing to do with the amount of wins in the national championships. It's the way they coach their players. They both prove that you can win championships and develop really good men. And we're in a day and age where a lot of schools think it's one or the other, and they proved it's both. So I'm excited to have them back.
So you heard it the first time, DB, and you were like, man, right? So how'd you feel about hearing it again?
I don't understand what he's trying to do.
Hey, that's kind of how I felt when Reese went over the second time and did the Now You See. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Shane.
We're not going to go there.
Shane, in the famous words of Carl Polanyi, what are you trying to do?
Was I in the locker room? I didn't see you.
I didn't see you in the locker room.
I talked to Damon Benning yesterday because
Okay.
Hey, I mean, I would feel
like you're just like, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm trying to be cool. That's not my jam. And you just keeping on.
Not that DB needs to pick me up, but not that DB needs to pick me up, but maybe you do at home. Check out the Beanery. That's the best pick me up that you can find. It's a place in Gretna, a place in Papillion, a place in Ashland, and how about the new one on 168th and Giles, which looks like two big crates that you would find on a cargo ship, which is kind of cool, kind of a unique look. It's coffee that we're talking about. Slogan is serving people coffee, and that's what they do. They roast their own. They're locally owned and operated, and we appreciate their pairing on the show. I went to the Beanery yesterday, 2 days ago, and I have 17 cents left on my gift card.
You know what? And I forgot to hook mine up too.
We'll send a group text.
I'm in the same boat
after the show. But maybe I'll wind down later with a Zipline beer because, like I said, I may need one after today's show. It's been a fun show though, very opinionated, and I like that. What beer am I looking for today? Maybe it is Zipline's Dope Juicy IPA. I have to say that because it has an exclamation point after dope. And it's all caps. Tons of juice.
I want to have Coach Rule have some.
He probably
drink some dope.
Coach Rule is pretty dope, regardless. Tons of juice. Yeah, you did. Yes, maybe Coach Rule does our ads from now on. Tons of juicy orange candy, flavor smooth. Not much hoppiness to it. Not a lot of bitterness, which is good. But it's now available all year long. Let's go to our next guest now, Brady Oltmans. In the StreamYard studio, Nebraska football and recruiting reporter for Hail Varsity at Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Brady, what's up, man?
Oh, just enjoying another beautiful day.
Yeah, I'll take that too.
So are you getting any? Do you have any sun yet, B?
Nothing yet today. But yesterday is still holding me over. We got plenty of sunlight out there yesterday.
There's a line from a Prince song in Raspberry Beret where he talks about overcast days. But I feel like this is going to be an overcast day, but not to cast too big of a shadow yet. And I get it. A lot of people weren't able to see the scrimmage, but when you hear context clues, right? Quarterback's this or defense that or install this or install that. B, did you form, like, what was the picture that you formed in your head after listening to Coach Rule about how the scrimmage looked?
Well, I thought it was interesting that he said that they made quarterbacks live, but they didn't tell them, and they didn't tell the defense until earlier that day, so they kind of threw that at them. And while they busted a lot of big quarterback runs, I think Rule was aware of, like, well, I didn't tell them until earlier, so they didn't really plan for that. So I'll kind of excuse that, or at least take that into consideration. It's interesting because, even just from what you hear from people and what Rule said afterwards, and then, from the little clip that the university sent out, that's the offense just seemed to be moving the ball. They love that group of running backs. They seem to run with purpose. You see the quarterbacks run with purpose. When they decide to actually run, they're running, head full of steam and shoulders pointing forward. That stood out to me. And then on the defensive side, a couple of those clips, if you know what you're looking for, you know what you're looking for. And then on the defense, you see Tony White's guys just swarming to the ball. You see 6, 7 hats just swarming to the ball wherever it is. And although they want to get guys in spots right now, like get them know where they fit best and move them like chess pieces all over the board, that's a big component to Tony White's defense. So it's encouraging on a defensive end to see them embrace that so early.
Speaking of the defensive end and kind of moving some pieces around, the gray jerseys are unique, but not so much unique to Coach Rule if you know his history. A.J. Rollins, Jaleel Martin have ran with it so far. Why? Because, well, Coach Rule has an active
bold.
Yeah, he's got an act in making NFL athletes in college. So why not do what your coach tells you in that moment? But end goal with this is finding an athlete that can make an impact in a spot he may have never envisioned. Do you think Nebraska will find a starter out of a gray jersey?
Potentially. I don't know if it'll be a day one, Minnesota starter, but they're also big on, they don't want to push the position change on kids. They might like encourage them and say, hey, we see a future for you at X, Y, or Z position, but they want the player to figure it out themselves. And hence the gray jersey of, they are going to take reps on both sides or positions on both sides of the ball and see what fits best. Even a kid like Jake Applegate, they moved him from his edge position on over to tight end in the first week because they liked his pass catching abilities. And anybody who remembers him from Southeast, that kid can catch some balls. You know what I mean? And they see that potential in him. And while they're still trying to figure out where each guy fits best, they're going to do their best to sort out where the best futures are, and that gives kids some more reps in those spots and potentially get some significant playing time. But as far as immediate starts, I don't know if I see that right away. But then again, we don't even know a depth chart, and Rule has admitted they're not going to form a depth chart until after the spring. But there are certainly some big bodies. I mean, A.J. Rollins, Jaleel Martin, like. These guys can ball right now, so it wouldn't surprise me to see them high on the depth chart in the summer.
Brady, who are the guys like on staff so far that you've kind of listened to, and this may be even irrespective to the players that they're coaching, right, from a talent standpoint, but who most intrigues you at the moment based on what you've heard so far?
I really like what Terrence Knighton says. I mean, he's got I shouldn't say small, but a very limited interior defensive line group right now. Like in practice, he's only working with 3, maybe 4 guys directly hands-on when they separate for certain drills. But he likes the way that Raquan Buckley is stepping up and like embracing that role. He's spoken very highly of Nash, and Nash has talked about what he wants to do, his visions, and how he's playing well. And sure, you get some of the, like, that's a position that Terrence played at a high level. I mean, he was a 7-8 year NFL veteran, and he kind of knows handwork, footwork, and all that stuff. But it's just seeing him in those little bits of practice, he's really getting across well those minor details, the footwork, the active hands, the active violent hands that help make them successful there. And for a limited position group right now, when you've only got about 3 or 4 guys that can really that you can see going, at a Big Ten level at that position. I think that benefits a lot of those guys to get as many reps as possible.
Man, I feel like you tapped my phone. He seems like, and just listening to him this weekend and getting a chance to know him, he seems like, at least on paper, like a budding star. I don't know how long Coach Rule can keep him, but if that D-line functions at a high level this year, I thought he was fantastic in the clinic setting. Like he seems to have all the pieces of a big-time D-line coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's
he
clear.
understands scheme too. Like he knows what's going on the back end, which is pretty impressive. Brady, I asked him, I said, who's in control of marrying the coverage with the front, right? Because a lot of people want to get into a defensive front and they don't know how to fit in the run game behind it, or vice versa. They want to play a coverage, but not sure what front they need to be in it. I mean, his answers, he is a smart son of a gun.
Yeah, it's what sticks out to you right away is the NFL veteran mindset. Like he has those little abilities to coach guys up, but also it's clear that he's taken time since his playing days to really, soak in as much coaching as possible. And obviously, if you play at that level, you're getting a lot of good coaching at the same time, so you can implement that. It really seems like even while playing, he really built up a good backlog of coaching that he's now expressing, in the Big Ten.
Brady, again, Brady Oltmans, Nebraska football and recruiting reporter for Hail Varsity, on with us now here on Coffee and Cream. I want to take advantage of that recruiting side of things that you do. I want to learn more about Gibson Pyle. What's there to know about him, the newest addition to the Husker recruiting class?
Well, he's a big body and a promising kid with a lot of versatility. I mean, he is an offensive lineman. He's taken reps at offensive tackle. I want to say that they can move him around on the offensive line because he's also taken reps, on the interior at guard and center. He's from a pretty strong football program in the Houston area. He's a guy that Nebraska touched base with and finally offered in late January as part of, I think the last or second to last really surge on the road during that January open recruiting period down in Texas. And I think it was one that he had a good conversation with coaches right away, and then that kind of kept the doors open, and then it was a matter of finally getting him up to Nebraska and seeing it. He came up to Nebraska, I want to say in early March, and with his dad, and he loved it. I mean, he was really taken with that visit, and then came back for that big junior day with his mom and stepdad, just to kind of look around and have them see it and have his entire family see it. And from what he has said, both parents, step-parent, saw him light up and just said, you look really happy when you're here, and kind of thing. And then that sat with him a little bit more. He's still recruited by a lot of other schools. I think there's, a lot of the Texas schools, the UTSAs of the world, and even, Texas Tech and Baylor have all reached out to him, recruited him. But at the end of the day, Nebraska made the strongest impact, and then he couldn't wait any longer and pulled the trigger. And I think, I don't know, it's about this time that you might see one or two more. I think Gibson was a work in the making. You've got about two other guys down in Texas now who I think are on the cusp, or who wouldn't surprise me in the least if they committed in the next week. But Gibson was one that you kind of see coming, and obviously when he talks about Nebraska, you understand why he liked it so much.
Hey, so it's interesting, Bill, because now we got a little momentum, right? And I think we have more momentum when we listen to the staff talk, and we're kind of rallying, and we're like, we'll see what the talent's like. We've kind of cooled on the Dylan Raiola thing, and it seems to have happened in the last 36 to 48 hours, ever since he said he wasn't coming to the spring game, which I didn't think was any sort of determining factor in anything. It seems like it has chilled. Are we ready to just take what comes and move off of that, or we just have something else to talk about?
Well, I wonder if part of it is there's something else to talk about, but also it's going to be a wait. I mean, if he's scheduling official visits, they know that he won't be committed, or at least there won't be a decision made publicly until June. And Husker fans have been on this roller coaster for 2 years now. So they've, are they going to brace in and hold on for the next two months on a daily basis or hourly basis? Or are you just going to kind of wait, see the next turns around the bends if Nebraska gets another visit or something like that? I don't know. They're kind of in a tough position because, you know, they like Danny a lot, and then he committed to Missouri. So now really, you know, Dylan is the top guy, the top target at quarterback. But I get the sense from this coaching staff that they're going to try to get him still. Obviously, you know, they're all in on him, and they're going to let the chips fall. If they don't get him, they'll wish him the best and then kind of figure things out from there. But Dylan's not out of the equation. Obviously, they're still invested in him. I just think it's going to be a little bit more of a wait, which is why you don't see the hourly churn out on news and headlines.
Hey, man, you're constantly swimming, right, in the recruiting waters. So it's good to hear points like that. But maybe go further now, because if it's – I don't want to get into if it's not Dylan, then who is it? But who are you seeing close to the point of becoming a Cornhusker right now, just based on maybe any recruit, all recruits? Because we know Coach Rule's been like this from the very beginning. Hey, come watch us. Come watch practice. Come do this. Come do that. You get a lot of bodies in the building. Do you know of anybody that's close to becoming a Cornhusker?
The one that stands out immediately is Ian Flint, the 3-star tight end from down in Katy. I mean, he's got the family ties. Both parents, you know, competed at Nebraska on track. His sister Amelia is on the Nebraska track team now and is helping out on the recruiting side of things for the football team. There's that good family tie, and I think Nebraska means a lot to him. He would be one. On an in-state level, they had Caleb Pye visiting Memorial Stadium in practice.
A nice surprise visit.
Yeah. Like I think that's the kind of kid that Nebraska would love to get. But at the same time, he's being highly recruited by a lot of schools. I don't know if I'd see him committing right away or in the near future to Nebraska, just because there's a lot of fish swimming after him. But those are the ones that stand out right away. Mario Buford, Marquise Buford's little brother down in DeSoto, who's kind of grown into a leadership role for their state champion team this last year. He really likes Nebraska, but I think I wouldn't count on him committing until after he takes another visit or steps foot back in Lincoln again.
Hey, Brady, what position group, I'm going to get you out of here on this. What position group needs an off-the-radar guy to develop the quickest to give Nebraska a chance to be the team that they want to be?
I'd almost say the interior defensive line. I mean, you've got movement and everything on the edge and linebackers, and that's fluid, but you need just the way that roster looks up now. I mean, you got Wynn, Hutch, you got Raquan. Those are strong, big guys, but you could really benefit from an off-the-radar guy growing into that position that kind of builds for a glimpse of the future. Maybe not, make a big splash in 2023, but a kid that you can kind of hang your hat on and say, we can build around this in the front, on the front 3, front 2, front 4 for the seasons to come.
Brady, man, you are the best. We appreciate your time this morning, and we will talk again next week.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, B.
And I appreciate all the recruiting insight, too. Kind of fires me up.
Yeah, but that's good. That's good get.
Hey, question for you.
Okay.
Because when I asked Brady about the gray jerseys, it had me thinking of something else, and I'm like, I shouldn't ask Brady this because he probably doesn't know unless he played, and I'm not knocking Brady's background. I don't know if he played. But since you played, you coach, all that jazz. What is harder? So I wrote down this question. I'm really struggling to figure out what is more difficult. What do you think is the easier change? Offense to defense or defense to offense?
Definitely defense to offense.
And why do you say that?
Because defense is just different. It's more a mentality. There's a reason Tommy Hill is back on defense. Well, it's actually a couple reasons. It may not be a good analogy. So I think going from doing the hitting to being hit, I think it is something. Now, the leveler or what evens the playing field is terminology is a lot more common on the defensive side of the ball than it is on offense. Offensive guys have all their own systems and namings. Like sometimes it's superheroes or food choices or beverages or, like Skittles to you it may be peanut butter to somebody else. But defensively, mugging or A gap or B gap or, leverage or spill. Like those are kind of common things. So I get how that can make sense, but it was weird. I'd asked Coach Knighton a couple of questions, and I think he liked them. And he knows my background a little bit, and he goes, "Wait, what position do you coach again?" Because they were defensive questions, but I'm a defensive guy at heart now, and in my head, I feel like I'm better defensively because of having played offense.
Right.
Like,
because you can anticipate what's to come because you were there.
I don't think the same is true if you go from offense or from the other way around with your mentality, though.
Okay.
Because your mindset has to change.
So are you saying defense is harder?
Yeah, I think it's much harder to go from offense to defense than it is from defense to offense.
Yeah, see, from the outside looking in, from somebody that never played,
you think
I
it's
would
the
think
opposite?
it's the opposite. I would think it's offense because you have to gel as a unit. The O-line needs to coordinate, blocking schemes, the backs and receiving core. They need to be on the same page. And then you're looking at, just everyone on offense has to read the defense in order to be successful.
I understand.
Offensively.
More things have to go right on offense for you to be good.
Right.
But the game is tailored to offense. Right? There's so many things you can't do defensively that you have to compensate for.
Yeah.
It's just it's
hard.
hard.
I guess on defense, all I'm thinking about is like, see ball, hit ball. It's kind of like a baseball term, but
it's hard though.
And I guess though, because you could make 2-3 really good stops in a row. And then if the team went for it on fourth and just like hit a big play, or you had one breakdown.
Yeah. Why are there offensive yards in football? It's hard. It's hard to get stops.
So you think the way that it's worked so far we'll just use AJ as an example. That's why it's easier for him to make that change from offense to defense.
I don't know if he would call it easy. But I think it starts with your overall temperament. He's very selfless, right? I mean, he went a senior year in high school without getting the targets that I think people that coached against him thought he should get. And he seemed to be okay with that. He was a role player, although he was a good player on his basketball team. So he seems to just be kind of unselfish by nature. So that's part of it. But he also has the mental makeup. The physical makeup, I should say. He's got the long arms. He's got good size. I think he's a tough guy.
You have to be if you're making that change.
I think he's a legit tough guy. But, I mean, you referenced Martin in the gray jersey. I was just watching him the other day. He's fast.
And Coach Rule has made a point to say, hey, we want speed on the field.
So I'm just kind of watching him in one-on-ones and move around. And even I wasn't like super familiar with the whole gray jersey thing. Like I really I'm like, gray jersey? Like what the world?
Right. I had to make myself familiar after it happened.
I was like in class. I raised my hand. I just walked over to one of the coaches. And I was like,
Coach,
"Hey,
I'm used to white. I'm used to red, and I'm used to green."
So they've got one guy I really, really, really like. I'm not gonna give him up, but he's essential, but like not part of the staff. Like his job is to make sure that the drills are moving real fluid. He's like the timing guy. 17 minutes is 17 minutes, 12 plays is 12 plays. So he's just kind of a guy that I've gravitated towards. Number one, I want to look like him because I love his frame. But he's in he only answers to Coach Rule. And that's, people think, oh, that's cool. You got to have a certain temperament, right? Like you have to be able to take getting talked to a certain way from time to time and know that it's no big deal. But I watch how they like handle the practices. Right. You don't have time to be in your feelings because you're either going to miss a rep or you're going to miss the drill. They're not waiting for you to get it together. You either got to get it together or find something else different to do. And I'm kind of vibing with that.
And I ride with that too.
Yeah. Defense, I think, is is a lot harder, in my opinion.
Are we playing chess or checkers?
I feel like he's Bobby Fischer.
Where is he? I don't know. Hey, coming up, we got the sports cleanup. We will get through as much as we can at the 9:30 spot, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about our guests in a few moments.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Things you wanted us to get to from the weekend, but we didn't.
Cleanup on aisle 6.
It's the Coffee and Cream Sports Cleanup on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, maybe you're out there and you just backed into the garbage truck because it is Monday. So we have a cleanup there. And where are you taking your car to get cleaned up? There's only one place that you should go. It's Dingman's Collisions Center. Dingman's has been in the business for over 25 years, family-owned, family-run local business. I'm up for an oil change, so I will be taking my car to Dingman's this week, and you should too, because they do really any and all things on cars, and they work on all makes and models, whether it's Fords or Teslas. So if you have an issue with your car, head over to Dingman's Collisions Center. Let's get into the sports cleanup because we have yet to talk baseball from over the weekend. We have yet to talk about the local teams from over the weekend. And we had a Nebraska athlete that was a record setter over the weekend too that we will mention here. But to kick things off, let's talk Major League Baseball, DB, because after the opening weekend, we kind of alluded to it from at the very beginning, but were you surprised by certain teams? Because there were some that I'm like,
the Major League Baseball.
How did you let that happen? And then there were others that I'm like, man, are they going to be better than I thought they were? And because we went through our rankings, and I don't know. What were your biggest takes from this weekend?
The fact that there's only 3 undefeated teams.
Yeah, that's one.
Like,
that is one.
Because I don't think it's going to be a lot of parity. I think you have a good 12.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, a good 12. Right. And then I think the rest is a little bit of a crapshoot. I'm not going to overreact. I have the Mariners and the Braves in the World Series. And the Mariners forgot that they ran into the Guardians staff. Were, it's a little hard to come by runs. So I'm not going to panic there, but I scored 12 runs in 4 games. So I don't know. I mean, that's about it. I don't like, are the A's, can they keep this up? And it's not that they're winning, just competitive like that. Yesterday they weren't, obviously, with the Homer Fest between Ohtani and Trout.
What
but
did they hit? Like over 800 feet combined?
I couldn't believe, kind of like the whole Clark situation getting blown out of proportion. Like the whole Springs and
the overreaction to Jeffrey Springs.
Cy Young talk.
Hey, we got our Cy Young winner, Jeffrey Springs.
I
the 30-year-old down in Tampa.
Was a little interesting, but I mean,
not to say you can't.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, how about the Rangers offense though?
Yeah, they came out to play.
Do you know how many runs they scored?
I don't off the top
29.
of my head. Is that good? Did they beat
good.
the Cardinals? What was it? 16, 9, and 4. Was that the same? 29?
Yeah, so they lost they lost 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a game in which they scored 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
That was Saturday?
Well,
yeah.
They won that game.
The Cardinals won that game.
Yeah,
it's 4-1 Cards.
Yeah, the Blue Jays lost. Yeah. You know what really surprised me? And I'm not going to go all in on it just yet.
I said Cardinals. I meant Phillies.
But I didn't hate the pitch clock as much as I thought that it would hinder pitching in the game.
Did I see 240? Was that the average?
Mm-hmm.
241?
Mm-hmm. Right around
How about
there.
the stolen bases up,
and
though?
I actually like that.
Me too.
Because what were you looking for?
You can't even hold guys on, really.
No, that's what I was saying. Like, what were you looking to get out of making the game shorter? You were hoping to speed it up. Well, you can't just speed up the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're speeding up the game, and I think that's really what the issue was: speeding up the game itself, making more action when there isn't action. And I think that's where Major League Baseball did right with the stolen base rule and the pickoffs and things like that.
So I mean, I hope that. I kind of hope that continues. I was surprised to see kind of the NL West kind of stumble their way along.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch
of 2 and 2s.
Yeah,
you're right. I was going to say the Dodgers didn't really have to stumble all too much because
I like Arizona, though.
Yeah, once they got settled, though, it was kind of like, okay, the Dodgers are going to come away.
I thought their offense would be better. They wasted Syndergaard's start yesterday, but I'm not. It's too early. It's like I can't remember what I'm supposed to wait to. I think it's June 1 or July 1 before I panic.
I think it's July.
Okay, so I'll wait till July.
Don't you want to wait
close to the All-Star break, right?
break time?
Yeah. I'll wait till July before I make any sweeping.
Man, I wanted to make a case about the pitch clock with Robbie Ray going to the IL, fantasy pitcher over here. Yes, I play fantasy baseball. You guys all know.
Dude,
me.
did you cut your teams down? Or are you still going with the 4 or 5 fantasy leagues?
No, I'm 2 in baseball. You can't do more than that because you have to do it every day.
Which one's 4 or 5? Football?
Football. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
because it's a once a week thing. Kind of.
It's a lot. Man.
But I wanted to blame the pitch clock because Robbie Ray went to the IL, and that was kind of my worry with everything. And this is my last point here, and then we'll move on. But you know what? Pitching fast should have kept this guy loose, and instead, because it was cold, he got tightened up. So the pitch clock should have actually helped him, and it didn't.
I was actually cheering for the Cubs.
Were you?
Yeah, I just want them to have a good season because I said they would. So I just want to be right? And I don't like the Brewers.
I think no matter what, you're going to look right in the Central because it's all going to be close.
So what wins that? Does somebody get to 90 in the Central?
I bet 86 wins it.
Now, I said this before, and somebody always gets it. Like I always pick that division low, and somebody always gets
It's
to.
All right, if they supersede that total, they'll never get to the 100. Although the Cardinals did in the last 10 years, but they won't do that.
Yeah.
Not this Central. Although the Cardinals lineup looked really good up and down. Hey, on the track and field side of things, Darius Luff won the men's 110-meter hurdles, a school record of 13.39 seconds at the Texas Relays on Saturday for Nebraska. He's a Lincoln High native. He ran a 13.44, I think I read in the prelims, and then actually solidified that 13.39.
Is that fast?
Well, notice how you have to also jump and slow down in the air, right? So good on Darius for that. Nebraska baseball had the bats alive against A&M Corpus Christi, but against Abilene Christian, it wasn't much of the same, although Bryce Matthews extended his hitting streak to 11 games. And he's looked mighty comfortable at the plate.
Yeah, not a problem.
Not at all.
That's going to be a good hitting team.
Nebraska softball had an ugly game 1 loss, but really bounced back in game 2. You saw 11 Huskers come to the plate, 7 put balls in play, and they also had a couple of 2-run homers in that inning. Although they didn't get the series win, it was nice to see the bounce back from that group. Creighton baseball, on the other hand, did get a sweep against St. Thomas, and St. Thomas isn't anything to fawn about, but
if it's hoops, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, dude, their hoops team, people underestimated them from the moment they made their way into the Summit. The moment,
lot of money.
They are a problem.
A lot of money.
A good problem for that conference to have. Although Creighton, they had that 8-run game 1. Was it the second inning? Was it the 4th inning? One of the innings, they had 8 runs total scored, and Tommy Steyer grabbed the win in game 2. They play UNO on Tuesday. Speaking of UNO baseball, how about the work of Cam Frederick and Mike Bovey? Both guys hitting over 400 on the year.
Good to see Bovey back, feeling good too.
He sees the ball so well.
Yeah.
I asked him one time, how comfortable are you? Like, how do you get so comfortable at the plate? He's like, dude, I just kind of chill. Like I know what's coming.
And in very Max Anderson fashion, probably my favorite thing about Bovey is he knows exactly. It's not just the strike zone; it's where he likes the ball within.
He knows what he's swinging at.
Yeah,
I mean, it goes to show that exact thing. He's not trying to play hero ever, but he had a walk over the weekend. Like, he's okay with taking first base. You give him first, he's cool with it.
That'd be
He
tough.
doesn't have to swing the bat. And a guy of his caliber, it would be hard to kind of put that aside of like, hey, I know I'm the best. Like, let's just say he can admit it. He knows he's the best player on that baseball field when he steps on it. But he's also okay with taking what's given to him.
So especially, given what's on the line this year with another good year, because he's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a single round draft pick.
Yeah. Oh, no question. No question. Creighton softball snapped a 10-game losing streak over the weekend. Omaha softball saw Cameron Meyer and Sydney Neismer combine to allow 5 hits and strike out 24 on Saturday in their sweep, although they did not get the sweep over UND. That's UND's 4th win on the season, I think. And aside from all of that, guess who was at the hockey arena? Coach Rule. Coach Rule,
Yeah,
like
with
Lincoln
the
Stars.
stars, man. And in all the gear.
Yeah, he was decked out. Although, if that was me, I'm a big jersey guy.
Yeah,
Coach Rule's a big jersey guy.
You got to go hang out together. A couple of adults wearing jerseys.
Yeah, Coach Rule, and that's cool. That's cool. It's Halloween every day.
Right now, he can do what he wants.
Right now.
No comments.
Keyword.
Yeah, right?
Key word.
Specific.
Hey, when we come back, we're talking to Matt Hladik, writer and editor for The Spun. We will talk college basketball and more. Stick around. It's Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Shoot. Behind it with the baseliner. Goodness gracious. Butler with 2 seconds. He's got to put it up. And he wins it. He wins it with the jumper. Under the basket. Back outside. Caravan. We got another one at the buzzer. That's his shot. That slot jumper on the left side. That's his home run. His go-to pitch.
Hey, welcome back as we wind this thing down on a Monday. It's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club, joined now by Matt Hladik, writer and editor for the Spun, at Matt Hladik 919 on Twitter. Matt, good morning.
Hey, what's up? How you guys doing?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Always a pleasure to be on with you guys. I can't believe it's end the college basketball season already.
Oh, it came.
Not just yet. Not just yet. We got one more game, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Mm-hmm. Matt, I like your energy, though. I mean, I like the energy you're bringing here on a Monday.
National championship.
Yeah, national championship Monday. Just trying to bring a little spark from the East Coast here.
I love the accent as well. During the tournament, man, you tweeted this, and it's resonated with me now. Tough to see anyone beating UConn. Still believe that?
Yeah, I do. I honestly, going into the tournament, I had UConn in the Sweet 16 and losing to Kansas. But then watching what they did to Arkansas after Arkansas beat Kansas, watching what they did to Gonzaga, the only teams that I thought, looking at it now with a little bit of retrospective, that could beat this UConn team or play with this UConn team when they're playing and functioning at this high of a level would be Bama, if Bama was on, UCLA pre-injuries, and Texas. I think Texas, if they had gotten past Miami, would have had a shot to beat UConn this past Saturday, but I don't see it happening now.
Matt, when you're taking a look at, so remember early, and I know you know this because this is your area and your wheelhouse. A lot of people thought early on this is the best team in the country, right? 16-0 or whatever it was, the great start. Then they kind of hit the skids in conference play. They come out of the back end. What do you think was the peaking or the turning point to get them to hit their stride at this point in the season?
Well, it's interesting because you're talking about a team that still hasn't lost to anyone outside of the Big East. You know, they went undefeated in non-conference play and were ranked number one. And then, like you said, they had that huge slump mid-season, which was a little inexplicable because even though the Big East is a tough conference, they had some shocking losses. You know, I don't know if it's any one thing that I can pinpoint. It does seem that, you know, after they lost that tough game to Creighton, which would drop them to 8-7 in the league, 19-7 overall, they kind of got themselves back rolling, and they got into a little bit of a favorable part of the Big East schedule. Mm-hmm. They had Seton Hall at home. They had Providence, who was pretty good, but the Providence game was at home. At St. John's, who was really struggling. DePaul, Nova, Providence. And those are teams that they were clear-cut better than. And for them to kind of get on that roll and I think get back to what made them UConn at the beginning of the year and get that confidence built up was really more so than anything else what's kind of propelled them to this point.
Matt, we have an Omaha tie on SDSU's side of things and a rope. So this area has a rooting interest into the title game for him and his family. Also 7.5-point dogs though to UConn. How does SDSU pull this off?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've been trying to find that answer myself, thinking about it. I think that, I will say this, I think that with Mensah and a rope and a couple of Hladik, a couple of those guys down low, they might have a little bit more to throw at UConn along the interior than some other teams have. Definitely the Miami did. to throw at Sanogo and Klingon and Andre Jackson and those guys. The problem becomes, as much as it seems like Matt Bradley found something on Saturday, and I love Trammell and Lamont Butler was the hero, UConn's guards and wings are just playing at a different level right now, and there's just so many different weapons and ways they can beat you. I think that the one way that it has to happen for San Diego State is they have to come out and maybe play a little bit above themselves offensively in the first half and hope that UConn kind of, catches a night where their sight lines are off maybe in the dome, or they just don't have it from deep or something weird, and it's a close game. Then you can kind of start to tap into that belief like, hey, we can make this happen again. Because I think if UConn plays well offensively, I don't see how anybody, including San Diego State, can really match them.
Matt, here's something interesting though with Klingon and Sanogo. Is there a way that maybe Mensa doesn't neutralize, but a way that SDSU can play with their ability to match depth that makes those guys have to play on the defensive end as well?
There is. That's definitely, I think, something that you're going to see San Diego State go for. The thing that makes it a little bit complicated is that when you look at Donovan Klingon, he's 7'2", and you may think that he's like a Zach Edey type defensively who doesn't necessarily move all that well, and you can expose him in the pick and roll or on the perimeter. He defends the pick and roll pretty well, especially for a freshman. He can move. We saw him make some plays recovering to break up lobs or break up passes against Miami. So it's not as easy as just kind of saying, well, when he's in the game, just stick him in pick and roll situations and you can exploit it. I do think that with San Diego State, like you said, with their depth, they go a legitimate 9 deep. They can match UConn body for body off the bench in terms of how many guys they can trust. It's just a matter of what can those guys give them.
Matt, we always look for a storybook type of ending when you get to a big game like this, the national championship game. What about these two teams do you think you can decipher a storybook in both ideas? So if SDSU was going to win, what would be the play that says, and based on how what describes their personality as a team, what is going to say like, hey, that's the play that's going to do it for them, and same for UConn?
In terms of what, like, specific play or what the storyline will be that people talk about?
I would say the play at the end. Like, what is going to be the play that everybody remembers? Like, and I hate bringing this up for DB, but when Jenkins hits the 3 against UNC, like, that was the play.
Well, do you think it's going to be a close game to get to that point?
See, that's the one thing that I have to be honest, and I don't see it being a close game. Like, I think that this is more likely going to go the way that Nova Michigan went, or to bring up a happier moment for DB when Carolina beat Michigan State in 2009. That game.
Yeah, I yawned a couple of times. That was good.
That game was like, I don't think it's going to be over at the first media timeout like that game was, but I do think that UConn's going to be in control. Now, I'll say this: I think if San Diego State does pull this off, it's going to be a shot by one of those guards. It's going to be something that Matt Bradley does, or maybe Darian Trammell, I think is going to be what you see, what you remember from this game. And I think that if UConn wins, if it's not something that Jordan Hawkins does, I think you might get something. If it wins a close game, I should say, I think you'll see something sort of like what happened last year with Kansas, with McCormick making a couple big plays on the stretch. It'll be Adama Sanogo, who's been their best player.
Matt, dare I ask, or dare I say, over the last week, has Dan Hurley become likable?
Well, it's funny. I do have to admit that I've known Dan Hurley for like 30 years out here. So he's been likable for me. I've known Danny a long time. I've always liked Danny, but I do know that the opposing fan bases, he's not always a favorite of the opposing fan bases. I do think that it has increased a little bit, though, definitely for outsiders, when you look at how well this team has played, the team that he's put together. And I think one of the things that make an interesting story is that Danny has always kind of been like that second fiddle. He was second fiddle to his brother. His brother was the better player and was older than him and did all these things on the court. As a coach, his father, their father's the most famous coach in the family, one of the most famous coaches in the world. So Danny, even as much as he's accomplished already as a player, he played in the Big East. As a coach, he's won at the high school level. He's won at the low major and mid major levels in college. Now he's winning at the high major level. He's still kind of been in the shadow a little bit. And I think you're seeing him step out of that now. And he wins tonight. He's done something that nobody else in his family and few men in the world have done. And that's win a national championship at the Division I level. Obviously, Bobby won it as a player, but not as a head coach, even though he's been at Buffalo and is now at Arizona State. So I do think that angle of it can definitely is a little bit of that storybook type thing that you were talking about.
Matt Hladik, we appreciate your time this morning. Enjoy the national championship tonight.
All right, you two guys, always a pleasure to be on with you.
Appreciate it, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Matt Hladik, writer and editor for The Spun.
Yeah, listen, if you need any legal assistance, you need to give the fine folks at Dyer Law a call. 402-393-7529, from personal injury to workers' comp. Maybe you just need a consultation from some experts that you trust. You always need Dyer Law. You can find them at the website, dyer.law, or give them a call at 402. Remember, it is 402-393-7529. That's Dyer Law.
And maybe you're feeling some personal injury from the women's basketball game still from last night. So maybe Dyer Law can help you there.
I don't know if they'll field those calls, but you tell them we sent you, they will.
We appreciate you and enjoy the game tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.